Today's video, we'll be talking about the venerable IBM 5150.
We got 20-minute videos on old technology, computers, laser discs, and some CDs. We got two little dogs licking their balls on the screen, and now it's time for the show.
So when I was looking into acquiring an IBM 5150, I had a friend tell me, well, actually asked me, he said, why? Do you want to just emulate being a 1980s office worker? And it's kind of funny, because he does have a point. This was really meant as a IBM business machine. This was really meant for businesses, and but it's just so iconic in the industry, and I wanted one. And yeah, you can play games on them as well as you can play games on pretty much any 8088, but I just thought it was a funny comment that he made there. So yeah, this is the original IBM 5150. A lot of other YouTubers that do retro computer stuff, they have done videos on this. This thing's been done to death on YouTube, but I want to do my own little spin on it. So first thing you're going to notice about this machine looking at it is upgraded a little bit here. We have a 720 KB floppy drive, and we have a half-byte hard drive here. Those weren't standard. You'll see that change in a minute, because I do plan on reverting this back to more stock original form. But we'll still talk about some of these upgrades a little bit later. But you will see, you probably will see these disappear all of a sudden, and you'll see another full height drive appear there, because I am going to revert it back to the original stock form. But just wanted to mention that. So this particular IBM 5150 is kind of special to me, just because I kind of built it from the ground up, more or less. I went and picked up some computers off a guy years ago, and basically all he had was this case and the motherboard in there, and that's it. So over time I've acquired every other piece separately. This monitor, this keyboard, all the drives, all the cards, everything inside it. Like I said, basically all I had was the case and the motherboard. I think maybe the floppy controller. But other than that, I just pieced this guy together over the years. So yeah, the IBM 5150 is very historically significant. If all you do is game on retro computers, you don't really need one of these in your collection. But if you actually like collecting significant retro computers that are significant to history and the industry, hands down, you've got to have an IBM 5150. Just the look, everything about it. This one's a little dirty. It's just been sitting around. I haven't really cleaned it up yet. I have to do that. A little dusty. It's got a little blemishes here and there, but that shouldn't be too difficult. But yeah, this thing, basically this is what every other kind of IBM compatible home computer was built off of. So a lot of things kind of started here. And if they didn't start on this machine maybe is what made them popularized or mainstream or close to where these things started. So yeah, we're just going to take a look at this machine and all the parts. We're going to have fun, and yeah, the IBM 5150. So here is our keyboard that goes with the IBM 5150, I believe. So a lot of people love the Model M. I believe this is the Model F, and if I'm correct, I believe this is the first keyboard that was sold with the IBM 5150. Might be the only one that was sold with the 5150. But yeah, this is known as the Model F. It's still very clicky, which, as I've said before in other videos, I don't really like loud clicky keyboards. Not really a fan of them, especially at night when there's other people around, but I know people love clicky keyboards. They are very responsive, good for typing. I don't know, I'm not like a keyboard aficionado like a lot of people, so I don't know like the specific kinds of keys or mechanisms, but this seems like a pretty quality keyboard, maybe right up there with the Model M, if not using the same components as the Model M, just a little bit different layout. See, here's the num section, but it's not really separated. Some of these keys are a little weird looking, like num lock and scroll lock are kind of extended. Same with this plus for some reason. So yeah, caps lock is a bigger. So you got some of these being kind of like bigger buttons. Function keys are on the side here as opposed to up here on a lot of later keyboards. We have this twisty cable for the connection, and then we have our PC connector there. Still very nice, good quality. IBM personal computer badge. Flip it over, and we have these little standees that twist out, pretty neat. There we go. Yeah, you have to push in and down when you're folding those back down in. No switches on these for AT, XT, or whatever. Of course, that wasn't really around at the time. Nice keyboard. So let's take a look at the monitor. Okay, so here we have the iconic IBM 5151 monochrome green screen monitor. Now, last time I used this monitor, it did work, but that was maybe 2 years ago when I had it hooked up, I believe, to this machine, and it worked just fine. It's been sitting for 2 years. I have no reason to believe it won't work now, but who knows. But yeah, this is a green screen monitor, monochrome. Brightness and contrast knob, IBM computer display. Now, there were other monitors, or monitors in this style anyways. They did have a color monitor, which I do own. Unfortunately, it's in my storage unit on the other side of the country. I'd love to have access to that again. Like, the wonders I could show you guys. So much cool stuff in that storage unit. Coincidentally, a couple years ago, I did go back home and I did take some footage of the storage unit. I kind of tried to get into it a little bit and remove some batteries and some old computers I had. It's just, it's storage. It's just filled with old computers. So a lot of my friends I tell them about, they don't believe it exists. They think I'm making it up. I don't want to overhype it, but so yeah, I don't know. I might edit that video and put it on the channel one day if you guys are interested in seeing that kind of thing. It's really just me rooting through a bunch of old crap. But yeah, so there's also an EGA version of this, which I would absolutely love to get my hands on, but all EGA monitors seem to be rare as hen's teeth these days. So, but yeah, this is a cool monitor to have with the machine. This is what it would originally have sold with, or that you could have bought separately maybe for it. But yeah, it's pretty cool. Now, I'd be doing this monitor a disservice if I didn't give you the story behind it. At least me picking this monitor up. So, a guy on Craigslist a couple years ago, he put a computer up with this monitor for sale for a decent price, and I basically bought it just for this monitor because I didn't have this specific monitor, and I did have the 5150 here, and I wanted this monitor to go with it. So I guess the guy, he was an older gentleman, maybe 60s or 70s, and I believe he was an author or writer of some sort, and he had been using this up until that time, which was only a couple years ago, for writing, and he actually had it hooked up to a 486, and the 486 had a monochrome card in it. Now, well, I don't think it was a blazing fast 486. It was, I think it might have had like a 25 megahertz. It might have even been a little faster. I don't remember for sure, but I did think it was kind of unusual that he had a monochrome monitor hooked up to his 486, but he still used it. He said he loved to use it to just write on and type. So yeah, that was kind of an interesting story with this monitor that was being used, you know, a lot until fairly recently. So yeah, I mean, it looks pretty good. There's a little, I see a little thing there, might be an issue. Probably can't see it on the camera. I don't know if that's a scratch or something right here in the middle. I don't remember that being an issue when it's in operation, but yeah, the other surprising thing about this monitor is it looks, you think old 80s IBM, you think everything is like metal and extremely heavy and bulky. This thing, it's super light. It's like deceivingly light. Every time I go to pick this up, I brace myself like, oh, heavy CRT IBM. It's going to be like 50 pounds. It is so light. I guess it's just mostly just plastic construction in this. Super, super light. Probably one of the lightest monitors of this size. Even, you know, more recent CRTs. This thing is just so deceivingly light. Not really anything going on the sides or the back for that matter. So yeah, here's the back. Not much going on. IBM 5151. Got your little IBM label with the serial number and everything. We got two cables. Sorry, hear the dogs growling in the background there. Having a disagreement. But anyways, yeah, here's our connector to the monochrome video card. And here is this thing. Now this is These are hardwired into the monitor, unfortunately. I never really like that, but that's how it goes. So this was meant to actually plug into the power supply on the back of the 5150, and then when you turn your computer on, it also powers the monitor. To this day on forums I still see people asking about power supplies, why they have that second like female power input on the back of some of them. Not new ones, but like older ones. This is why. It's so you can connect your monitor into it, and then you don't have two power plugs that are taking up sockets. So kind of nifty. So, but apparently that's kind of like the only way this does connect. So let's take a look at the computer proper. Taking a look here at the back of the 5150, we have another nice IBM badge, although mine's peeling up a little bit in this corner. Manufactured by IBM Corporation in Armonk, New York. Model number 5150. Here's the power supply. You have the main, just standard 3-prong power supply, and then you have the little female plug here that you want to connect your monitor to. Power supply fan right there. This one apparently is from the Coop, Cambridge, Massachusetts. It somehow made its way across the country and then got in my hands, so there you go, if anyone's familiar with the Coop. And then down here you have a keyboard and the cassette port. Now it does use the PC standard keyboard connector, so a lot of later AT style keyboards won't work with the original PC. Some of the later ones do have a switch to switch from AT to PC. If you have one of those, make sure it's at PC, but just keep in mind a lot of those keyboards will fit, but they just won't work. Now here is the cassette port. As many others have said in the past, I also have never known anyone that used the cassette port with the 5150, even though I believe the base model of this machine came with no disk drives. So yeah, but I will recommend, V Westlife made a video about the cassette port specifically on the 5150, and he does use it to I believe load and run programs and save and music things, so it can be used, but at the time, as far as I know, I never knew anyone that used it, so outside of goofing around, I don't know how useful that actually is. And then we have our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 expansion slots. This here is a moderately upgraded 5150. Actually, this is the configuration I had my machine in before I did this video, and kind of returned it to more or less more of a stock or more of an earlier configuration. So yeah, we have you see right here we have a full height drive, but next to it is the difference here. We have a 3.5-inch drive. This is a 720 kilobyte or KB disk drive, and then under it we have a half-height hard disk drive. So these are mostly quality of life additions, and I wouldn't say these kind of upgrades were common on a 5150. I don't know. I was really too young in the late 80s to really recall that. Although I'm guessing these weren't super common upgrades to do to a 5150. They do really help with quality of life, though. You get a lot more software that's available on these disks. It just makes information transfer a little bit easier, and of course a hard drive is always very helpful. So yeah, that's just two little pretty easy to do upgrades. Actually, the original floppy controller from the 5150 actually supports 720 KB disk drives, so we'll take a look inside and I'll show you how it's hooked up. So because of the layout of the 5150 and that the two drive bays are meant for full height drives, like this original IBM floppy drive, which takes up the entire bay, if you do put two half height drives in, you need some kind of adapter to secure them. Now I don't know if this is an official one. I found this in another IBM that had two half-height drives, and like I said, I don't think this has IBM stamped anywhere on it, so I don't know if this is like an official adapter or something like third-party or something someone built in a machine shop. I don't know, but it's very sturdy and it works very nice, and it secures both half-height drives. But if you don't have some kind of official or unofficial adapter like this, you can use, there's all kind of different tricks. Before I found this adapter, I used a rail, a drive bay rail actually, and I just put it diagonally and I connected it here and here, and that secured it well enough. So you don't need one of these, but it does look a lot nicer than using, say, a drive bay rail, and it's also much more sturdy and secure. So just keep that in mind if you're doing upgrades and you're putting in half-height drives. Alright, and here's that half-height adapter here. Like I said, no markings or branding on it or anything like that. Here's the drive I was using. It's an ST225. I don't quite remember. I don't know if this is MFM or RLL or whatever. I don't even remember the sizes. I think this might be a 10. It's a 10 or 20 megabyte drive, I believe. And here's the controller card for it. This is a WDC card from 1984. It uses the two controller and the data cables. I scavenged both of these from an old Packard Bell 8088 machine that I had a while back, and I decided to take these out and put them in the 5150 to upgrade them. But now I'm decided I'm downgrading that computer to get it to more of a stock configuration. So yeah, this, if you wanted to know, this is what I had in there for the hard drive. And here is our full height IBM drive. I believe these are 360 KB floppy drives. Of course, they take the 5¼ inch floppy and all kind of chips and things on it. Very big, heavy drive. So yeah, I'll be installing this monster in place of the hard drive and the 720K drive. So lot less convenient to have this installed, but like I said, we're going for a more stock configuration. And there we go with the second floppy drive installed. That's how you would install it without the adapter. Pretty easy. And there we have our stock 2 floppy drive configuration. Now, one thing I didn't mention earlier is this is not the original power supply. This too I pieced separately, but this is a more powerful power supply. It has more Molex connector and the wattage is higher. And the main reason I wanted to upgrade the power supply is because, as we've seen previously, I did have a hard drive in here, and the original power supply is quite anemic. I want to say it's 65 watts. It might even be lower. For some reason, part of my brain's telling me it's 45 watts or something around there, but it's low wattage. And when you throw in an old MFM hard drive, those things are pretty power hungry, and you can run into issues. So if you are going to upgrade your 5150 with a hard drive, I strongly suggest you upgrade the power supply to something with a little bit higher wattage, and more Molex connectors also always helps. I'm not sure what the wattage on this one is. I think it's, I don't see it on here, but I think it's like a little over 100, maybe 125 or 135, something along those lines. But definitely upgrade your power supply if you're planning to add a hard drive. So now with that hard drive controller card gone, that actually frees up a slot, an 8-bit slot, and I'm not really sure what I want to replace it with, if I want to replace it with anything. Like I said, I'm trying to keep this thing more or less stock-ish. Not quite, but I do want to keep it more standard, I guess. I could put in like maybe a joystick controller, maybe. I don't really want to go with a sound card in this one, so yeah, maybe I could put in a memory card and add memory, but I think that's a little bit outside of the scope of what I want to do, the vision I have for this 5150, so I might just leave it with nothing in it, unless one of you guys have a suggestion. Okay, so before we go any further, I just want to do a quick test, because I'm just eager to see if this monitor's still working okay, and you know, if the second the drive I just installed powers up, and I just want to do a quick test here. So now I do have a CGA card in here, so I did have the jumper block set for CGA, so I've set them back, what I think I set them back for monochrome, because you have to set the video type on the motherboard with switches. So I'm going to power this on, and we're going to see if anything happens. Now, like I said, this whole setup worked just fine maybe 2 years ago when I last tested it. So I have the monitor plugged into the power supply, have the power supply plugged in. So it's been so long. I know that's the brightness. Maybe this just, it's been so long. I think this just powers up when I power on. So let's see. Okay, that's good. Oh, I think I heard something happen with this monitor. But I don't see anything going on. Let me play with the brightness and I don't see anything happening. Wish there was a power LED somewhere on this thing. Okay. Don't see. Maybe I don't have the. Maybe I have the switches messed up because now that I think about it, these aren't powering up or seeking. So maybe I have it still set for it thinks there's a hard drive in there. I think maybe that's the switch settings. Whoop! There goes one. Okay. Oops, that's a blank. Not that it... Okay, well I'm gonna check. Maybe I have something not set right, because this guy didn't seek. And I still see nothing on that monitor, which is not good. So, let me do some poking around. Okay, so good news, it was the brightness tab. Right after I stopped, I cut off the video, I fiddled with the brightness again, because I saw something very faint at the bottom. And yeah, that was the issue with the monitor. So it actually looks pretty good. The brightness, to get this level of brightness, it has to be turned all the way up. We can turn it down a little bit, but it doesn't. It looks kind of dim. So yeah, that's not bad. So yeah, the monitor seems to be working good. I checked my settings, and yeah, I mean, I had 2 floppy drives before, so that was actually set correctly for 2 drives. This one seeks, but B doesn't. But I'm not even sure if on an original 5150 that B seeks when on post and startup. So I don't know. I'll have to do some more checking. I did test this drive, like I said, about 2 years ago. I went through all my IBM full height drives, and this one, I did have this on the list checked off as working. So I don't know. But yeah, that's good news that our monochrome monitor seems to be still working just fine. Alright, so after doing a little research, I believe on boot up, it doesn't actually seek the drive B, just drive A. So I believe that's normal, that it's not seeking that drive. So yeah, I was also thinking, again, I was thinking, oh, I got that free slot there. Man, a hard drive in these things, in any old computer, a hard drive is so massively convenient. It's such a quality of life thing. It goes kind of against the philosophy I'm going for with this machine, though, but I might consider like an XT IDE card with a little compact flash card on there. I'm really torn, because I mean, I really want a hard drive in this guy, but that really, I'm kind of going for sort of stock, sort of early 80s period correctness. And I don't know, that goes against the whole philosophy for this build, so I might just leave it blank, or like I said, if I come across some kind of old joystick controller card. Alright, so I'm going to go over the cards I have installed in this machine fairly quickly, because none of them really are especially exciting. This is the Floppy Controller, and I believe this is like the stock Floppy Controller, or something very similar to this. It just has your edge connector there. You connect this there, and then that goes to the drives. If you have something that uses the pins like a 1.44 megabyte drive, that will work with this card as a 720 kilobyte drive, you can use those pin to edge connector adapters. That's what I had done, and it worked just fine. So yeah, not much else to say. There is a connector for like an external drive. You don't see that very often. I believe in the BIOS, at least, and with the switches, this thing supports up to 4 floppy drives, I believe. And in case you're wondering, which you're probably not, yes, they do make versions of this that are 8-bit that have a regular, more modern style floppy cable connector. So other than the edge connector, it just has like a regular one with the pins. In case you're wondering, I actually have one, and I was using it for a while until I started going on this thing where I started like upgrading this machine to get it more stock-ish. So yep, this is the floppy controller. So next up is this very large card, and this is our monochrome monitor display card. Various chips and memory. I don't really know the specifics of this card, but it is the card that controls our monochrome monitor there. Now this also has a printer port, parallel port on there, because you only get 5 8-bit ISA slots on this machine, so in the day they were always looking for ways to incorporate multiple functions onto single cards. So this is your MDA / parallel port controller card. And another thing about this card is, as you can see, the bracket, it's black, it's not silver, and it looks a little bit different. It's like a loop instead of that U. I believe that is like the original 5150. When they first came out, they used cards with this black bracket. So this, I believe, would be like from an original revision of the IBM 5150. I believe so. And here we have a CGA card for color graphics. And yes, you can have a CGA and a monochrome card in a PC at the same time. Again, they're set by switches, which is the main display card, but usually if you have both, you set the machine for CGA, and when you're in the operating system, I forget what the command is, but you can actually do a command that will switch back and forth between monochrome and your color monitor. So depending if you're typing an essay or something and you want the sharpness for like text for the monochrome monitor, you can switch to that. If you're playing a game, a CGA game, you can switch to the CGA monitor. I believe there's also a few select applications that will use both. So you're playing the game on your CGA monitor, and then maybe on your monochrome it's displaying something. I believe there's a couple applications, maybe a game or two, that work like that, from what I recall. But there's multiple variations, or more like revisions of this card. I believe this is the latest revision of the CGA card. The earliest one, I believe, has a green PCB, and then I believe there's a revision that uses, it looks very similar to this, but it has some patch cables on it, though. Yeah, and they're more or less the same, but there are slight differences. I believe like the earlier one, some of the color shades are slightly different, or some of the characters, it's slightly different. There's a small difference. So if you're using, say, an older version of the CGA card, and your certain games might look slightly different, it's not. I don't think it's something that the average user would necessarily notice, but just be aware that there are slight differences between the revisions of the CGA card, the original CGA card. Now, of course, there are other CGA cards. Again, I'm trying to go full kind of IBM early 80s with this machine, but you can get, like, ATI made those little CGA Wonder cards that have that are like a quarter of the size of this card. So yeah, you've got your CGA connector right there. What is that, like your 9-pin CGA connector, and then you have a composite out, so you can connect this up to a color composite television, and there's videos out there on that certain games look really good just through composite onto a TV or even a computer monitor that accepts composite, and it will sort of blend those colors, and you'll get really good results, better than just straight CGA. Straight CGA is just sharper, but you're limited to that 4 color palette. But if you use composite, you can get some nice images out of composite, but it isn't as sharp as just using the CGA. But there's other videos on that if you were curious. And then the final card we have here is a AST Mega Plus 2 card from the early 80s. This adds memory to it because I have the later revision 2 or later motherboard, and I believe the most it takes on the motherboard is like 256K of RAM. So this should, this is all populated, should bring it up to the full 640K. It also adds, I believe that's a serial port. You can add all kind of other things too. I believe the max RAM is like 512K that this will take, and it adds a real-time clock there. And there's switches here for settings to set the memory to align with what you have on the IBM's motherboard. It's really interesting with setting the memory with the switches, because I believe the switches don't disable or enable the memory. It just kind of tells the BIOS how much memory you have. So I believe in theory you could set the switches so the machine thinks you have 640, but you might not actually have 640. So you gotta watch for that. But yeah, I don't even know what these do. I think these are for daughter board. Yeah, so we have like printer port. You can add like another printer port, DTE and DCE. Not sure about that, but yeah, you can add different daughter boards to these cards. So these were pretty common, I believe, on the old 5150s. All right, and here is our motherboard. You can see right here it's the later 64 to 256 style motherboard, and all of our RAM banks here are populated. I believe it's like 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 3, or maybe 0, 1, 2, 3. But I believe it has the full 256K of RAM. Again, I'm not like I mostly game on these. This is my fun hobby. I can't tell you what all of these specific ROM chips and chips do, but there they are. One big limiting factor with this machine is you only get 5 8-bit ISA slots. Of course, later on they extended that to the standard being 8, and then they added 16-bit ISA and so on and so forth. We also have switches here to set things. The one closest to the middle is switch block 1 and then switch block 2. I believe 2 is more for handling the memory, and 1 you set like what kind of video card and how many floppy drives and all those fun things. Alright, and by the cassette and keyboard jacks on the back, we have our 2 slots for a processor and coprocessor. So here we have AMD 8088 running at 4.77 megahertz. Now keep in mind, a very common upgrade was an NEC V20 that adds a little bit of speed to the system. That was a pretty common upgrade at the time. If you want to keep it stock though, it's just going to be a standard old 8088. Usually the coprocessor socket is almost always, in my experience, empty, but I just hate having empty sockets, so I put in a 8087 math coprocessor. Pretty much useless unless you're doing, like CAD or something like that. A handful of games, as I said many times before, do support it, but it's not a very useful upgrade. But if you got one, or if empty sockets bother you, it's not going to hurt anything to throw one in. Well, I did kind of shoot myself in the foot here by deciding to test this machine after I upgraded it. Since the hard drive and the 720 KB floppy drive would have really helped in showing off some games and software and whatnot, since I don't even know if I have anything on 360 KB floppies, or if I even have any of those floppies around, so I'll have to look, but at least we can show it booting up. Alright, so I turned the lights down so we can see it. Now, so keep in mind, we're not doing direct capture here, so I apologize for any glare or, visual issues here. So let's just power this puppy up. You can hear it. I didn't hear the monitor go. Okay, good. I don't know if you can see with the glare, but I do see the little blinking cursor, so that's nice. Let me see if I can get rid of a little bit of that. There we go. So hopefully you can see the blinking green cursor there. It does take a minute here to get going. Now I do want to say I had a memory error last time. I think it was a 201 error. I looked that up, and that is memory. and I thought I had a 640 K of memory on between the motherboard. There goes the floppy. Between the motherboard and that AST card with memory on it. So I did some messing around with memory sizes and stuff, and when I set it to 512, booted right up. So it looks like I had it set for too much memory. I have too much memory. So either I never had 640 KB or I did and some of it went bad, but setting it for 512, I believe, KB of memory fixed the problem. So there we go. It is posted. So I'm going to poke around and see if I can find some software to show you guys. Alright, so I did find a random floppy that had DOS on it, and it did load up. The floppy drive works, and I tried out the dir command and it pulled up what was on the floppy, and then I'm not sure, it just said DOS on the disk, so I ran the vir command for version. It looks like it's for a compact personal computer, DOS version 3.20, but looks like it's working. So let me see if I can get a game running. Alright, well, it looks like I found Rogue, which is pretty cool. Just like a random disc I had in a little case. Trying to get it in focus here, but it looks like it doesn't want to focus, so... Alright, let's just quickly see if this will work here. And, cool. There we go. Rogue on the IBM 5150. Looks like it's working. It's been a while since I played this, so I have no idea. I found 34 gold pieces. Oh, it's a bat. No. More? Can I go away from the bat? Okay, the bat scored an excellent hit on you. Not good. Didn't hit the bat. The bat swings and bites me. That's not good. Okay, more. And I defeated the bat. Okay, it's cool. Like I said, I'm not sure right now how well the camera's picking up, but with these old monochrome monitors, you get a lot of ghosting. So it said the text up here, you can still sort of faintly see it as it slowly fades away into the monochrome ether. These monitors are not good for quick movement going on. I think that is another bat that I barely missed. Second, I scored an excellent hit. And I defeated the bat. So yeah, I'm not going to bore you guys by playing through a bunch of Rogue on this machine, but there you go, it works. Awesome. Rogue on the 5150 and a monochrome monitor. It actually looks pretty nice. So here's a good way to illustrate the effect of these old monochrome monitors. I'm not sure what the term is. I think it was persistence maybe, but I very well could be wrong on that. But let me just show you a quick example here. So I'm going to pull up the menu. I think it was F1. And there we go. And again, I'm not sure how well this camera picks up, but you can still see the dungeon behind me as it fades away. So if you pull up the menu and we're like, oh, it's how I eat food. Okay, that's cool. And then escape to leave. And there's your dungeon, but you can still sort of see the list. And it takes a moment before it fades away enough that it doesn't really interfere with the screen. Now, I'm not 100% sure if they're just always like that, even new, or if that gets worse over time, and just because this monitor is several decades old, the effect is worse. I don't know for sure on that. I'm sure someone can say in the comments, but it's not that bad. It's still pretty cool, and it only takes a second for it to go away, so it's not really that annoying. I'm just really happy that this monitor works. That's another bat. I did kill a hobgoblin while I was playing, and I wasn't recording. Hobgoblins are pretty nasty. At least as far I know is in Dungeons and Dragons, 1st and 2nd edition. So yeah, I feel like I'm gonna be playing this a while. So I'll get back to you guys in a second. Alright, so I've moved everything clumsily back to the bed where it's all sinking into the mattress. But I needed the space to try this out. So as you saw earlier, this IBM 5150 does have a IBM CGA card in it. And there is a command to switch back and forth. So I believe when you're in DOS, if you hit like mode mono and you have a color monitor, it will switch over to the mono monitor. So I've hooked everything up, and I've never done it before, so I just want to give it a try. This is my, last I checked, barely working Tandy CM5 CGA monitor, so hopefully it still works. I can't guarantee that though, but let's power things up and give it a shot. Alright, here we go. So let me, okay, at least it still powers on. So powered on the color monitor, and I have them both hooked up. I went in there and I set the switches back to for CGA on the motherboard for the 5150. So this should work, theoretically, but we all know how things go with old computers. Okay. So okay, good. So we have the cursor here on the color monitor, nothing on the monochrome, but I think that's how it should be. I don't have DOS disk in there. I just wanted to see if it will actually post up, and so far so good. Alright, so before we try anything here, I did find this disc that you probably can't see because it's dark, and it's just labeled Merry Christmas Jingle, and since it's December, let's put this in and let's see what it is. Alright, so Jingle looks like it's the EXE, and let's see what Merry Christmas Jingle is. Hopefully it's a festive Christmas jingle on beautiful PC speaker with like a little Christmas tree or something. Ooh! I think this is that greetings card creator, which again probably doesn't come across that well on this camera, but taking the direct view of the screen, but it actually looks pretty nice. I thought this monitor was on the fritz, but it seems to be working good now. Let's see, Jingle Tunes one. So, and as we see now, it is in glorious 4-color CGA. How wonderful! That didn't play me a jaunty tune. It just okay. So it's loading. Ahaha. Yeah. Merry Christmas to one and all. That's pretty neat. We got a little snowman there. This little snowy house. I don't miss the snow. I used to live on the East Coast in the north, and I don't miss the snow. Snow was always wonderful to drive around in when you drove a rear-wheel drive vehicle. It was fun, and I'm being sarcastic. So yeah, okay, I know what this is. I think LGR actually did a video one Christmas on this program. So, all right, let's get out of this. All right, and I did also just test the B drive that I just installed not too long ago, and confirmed that it is reading from the B drive. So both of our drives work. So I believe that's right, mode mono, and let's see if it does anything. I think I heard the mono monitor kick on. Yes, see it? So yeah, there we go. The mono monitor did kick on. That's pretty cool. And there's the color monitor. It's still actually running, but I think it's in kind of like a freeze state. Now, there are whole YouTube videos. I believe Adrian Black, I think that's his name. He does retro computer videos too, and he did a whole comprehensive video on this whole 5150 with dual monitors and command and switching back and forth. And his video explains it better. We're just playing around here and seeing if I can get it to work. And it does appear to have worked. The mono monitor kicked in. Let me just see what's on we'll do the dear command, and yeah, there is our drive. So yeah, mono and CGA monitor running on our IBM 5150, so pretty neat. Alright, and I think the command mode CO80 will give us back control with the CGA monitor. So let's, yeah, Bennett cleared, and there we go, back to the CGA monitor. Actually, I think, looking at it, maybe we were running in 40 column mode earlier, and now it's running in 80 over here, but whatever. Whatever works. Okay, so maybe I'm going to look through this thing of discs here and see if there's any weird disc that like stands out to me, and we'll give it a try since we have this setup all up and running at the moment. Yeah, nothing too interesting in the pile of discs, but I did find EA's Golf. I didn't know I had this game. Hit any key to go on, Q to quit to DOS. So, play. I think I know what this game is. I think this is the one that like everyone had, and it like on a 5150, well, on a 4.77 megahertz CPU, it draws the, it works, but it draws the course really slowly. Come on. I guess we'll see in a minute. Course is on disk. Nasty 9. That sounds promising. So I don't think this is the game I thought it was. I'm sure there's multiple golf games for early IBM compatible computers. So this is just EA's Golf, but I don't think this is the one I thought it is. I have no idea how to play here. So the IBM 5150. Do you need it in your collection? And that really depends. I will say, like the Apple II, if you are just a hardware collector, or if you love just old computers and you just collect hardware, yes, you have to have one of these. It's just too historically significant to leave out of a collection if you just collect vintage computer hardware, just like the Apple II. And maybe, you know, even like the Commodore 64, and along those lines, you need to have a 5150 in your collection. Now, on the other hand, let's just say you just play games on old computers. You like old computers, you do like to play games on original hardware, but maybe you don't have the space, or you're not, you know, fanatical about having hundreds of different retro computers, but you do want a computer to fill that niche from the early 80s, and those games that really play best on a 4.77 megahertz 8088 or something along those lines. In that case, I really wouldn't suggest seeking out a 5150. There's just better options. I think you're just better served with getting something from the Tandy 1000 line of computers, or even just another generic 8088 machine that maybe has a turbo function to kick the CPU up to 10 or 8 or 6 megahertz if you need to, that has more memory just out of the box on the motherboard, or that even just has you know, 8 ISA slots rather than the 5. I just think you're better served that way. I just think there's a lot of better sort of 8088 based computers out there. But if you do just love IBM and you're collecting hardware, this is a must. But if you're just looking to game on an 8088, I just think there's better options for you out there. So yeah, that's about all I have to say on the 5150. Like I said, this one in particular is a little bit special to me just because I've built it from just the chassis and the motherboard, and everything else I found after the fact. Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit special to me. I don't think I'd keep it in my setup currently, just because I have a better machine for this era of computing. Watch my Anatomy of an 8088 PC machine if you're curious what I'm currently using for that era. But I'm not going to get rid of this guy. I just hopefully one day I'll have a bigger place where I can set it up with the other IBMs. And I actually have a workbench, and I can shoot videos for you guys not on a bed. Although this little area has been working out somewhat. So again, thanks for watching. I know there's a lot of other videos out there on this computer, but I hope I've added a little bit of information out there in the interwebs on the 5150. And I enjoy making these videos. I hope you guys enjoy watching them. If you do, let me know. Please comment. subscribe, click that stupid bell thing, whatever, or don't, whatever. So I'll see you in the next video. You guys have a great Christmas. I guess that means I need to put this video out before Christmas, or else it's going to sound pretty stupid. So I guess this means this will probably be my next video. Now, sometimes I shoot these videos and then I edit them and put them on YouTube or whatever months later. But I guess I cornered myself on this one. So you guys have a great Christmas. Have a IBM 5150 Christmas. See you guys next video.